Morning and good evening, everyone, and welcome to SALT working group, the testing working group. So today we have a packed agenda, and then I have few suggestions to make. But then Pablo and Mihai, be sure to add or guide the discussions. So I wanted to bring up few of as the first agenda item, I wanted to bring up few of the things which are planned for SolConf. So for SolConf, we have a couple of community-oriented events. On Monday evening from 4:30 to 6, we have Sol Sprints, and that is essentially wherein all the Salt users, Salt developers will get together, and there will be multiple tracks. We have 8 different tracks on different focus areas, such as some are based on like the working group focus areas, such as Windows, Mac testing, and some are additional areas such as documentation and for Salt beginners. So one of the things which I'm hoping to also accomplish either during today's call or later on is to identify for the testing track what should be the folks working on. So we have about an hour and a half. So one of the approaches we are using for the other tracks or groups is that we are identifying a list of a few issues. Those are the ones which are, say, interesting, but also are very critical and important. So if we identify a few of such aspects, I think that will be something which is useful as SolConf is coming up soon.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect, Kavya. That's actually one of the main things that we also wanted to discuss on this meeting. So basically have some ideas and cars for the Sol Sprint. And we already had some discussion. We already have some ideas of topics that we could bring there for the Sol Sprint. So anyone that wants to join us on the testing track, we will have some actionable cars for them. For beginners, which we were thinking on, since we have all these PR list of missing unit tests, and these are PRs that we wanted to port for master, we are missing those tests. So one easy task for beginners that wanted to start working on Salt testing is to maybe create some of those missing unit tests so we can push those PR forward to master. Then we also had the idea of, for those that already, the ones that have already worked on making tests, we have also the list of the slowest tests in our test suite. So improving those slowest tests will be also nice for those that already have some experience creating tests and they want to dive into improving currently implemented tests. And we also have the EPIC card about the thinking on a performance test suite. This is an EPIC, so it's not actually something that could probably be done during or within the Salt Spring time, but it's something that we also have there on our to-do. And I think the first step for this will be to think a bit and probably produce some RFC or how you call the document, the Salt enhancement proposal, probably for creating some or see how we can basically measure the performance of the test suite execution. So that's the ideas that we have for having some cars that we could bring and then cover the testing track during the Salt Sprint at SolConf. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, that sounds really great. One of the things I'd want to bring up is we are also encouraging the leaders of each of the track to think about what's the what's the top problem, because we have each of the salt sprints for about 90 minutes. So think about like what's the top problem. If the group kind of discusses about that, we get a lot of insights and feedback and we are able to make progress. Which one
Mhm.
would you pick among the three different items? I mean, the slow test, writing the test cases for all the PR migration, and the SEP that you mentioned. Which one would you do you have like a priority in mind? If not, I mean, that's something to think through as well later on.
So one question, this is not like a workshop, it's only a one-time thing that it's 1.5 hour, right?
Yeah, it's a one time thing. So the goal for this is that we want to encourage the new salt, new people. I mean, recruit more for salt development. We want to recruit more people for the working groups, and encourage the already existing salt developers to collaborate with others, get to know, develop that sense of community. So this is sort of like the goal. So since many of the salt community members will be there at saltconf, we plan to do this as a one-time activity, but then we hope that they continue kind of working with each other through the working groups.
Okay, and Pablo will be there, but I have this question that I think the answer would also be useful for him. What's the format of this? Is this like a presentation? It will be on the stage, or would it be in a separate room with a restricted number of people, like only interested persons, or how do
Yeah,
you see this happening?
I can answer that. So, and also, um, tomorrow there will be Mo will actually be calling all the leaders of the different tracks, so that we can, walk through step by step what will actually the event look like. But then to give you a quick highlight, in the 90 minutes event, the first 5 minutes or so will be sort of the kickoff, and everyone will be assembled in the big room. It's a general assembly room. Mo will do the kickoff, and then we have different corners assigned for different tracks. So each of the groups will huddle there, finish the work, and by the end of it, we'll probably have like a 10 minutes playback, wherein each of the groups will kind of either if they have something to show, or it could just be more like telling the audience that what the group worked through, um, and what kind of that they hope to work through in the future meetings. So things like that. So just a quick kind of like recap or a playback, and that ends the session.
Okay, so then I think, Pablo, we need to change a bit the strategy because it seems like this would be more like a, I don't know, discussion, let's say, and there's not enough time to start with actually doing something. So we thought it would be like a workshop, but then uh, this is not the case. So maybe we need to
Hmm.
change.
Well, I'm not sure if I got it properly, but what I understand is that there is going to be some initial presentation to the Soul Sprint, but then uh, each one of the tracks will have some space to gather all the people there and then somehow to start working on something. And then at the end of the sprint, then we will have also some time for uh, speaking to the whole audience and just showing the results from the Soul Sprint. So there is actually, or there is going to be, as far as I understood, maybe I can clarify this. There is going to be time for actually uh, produce some outcome during the Soul Sprint.
Yeah, but it's only 90 minutes, so I'm not sure you
Mm.
could. I mean, I don't think we can do the same format with the getting people to start writing tests and actually let them do something, or
Well, maybe
maybe it
they.
can be like a
Mm.
introduction how to write tests. I don't know. It depends on who we are targeting. If
Yeah,
there,
yeah, 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 sure. Yeah, we should have. Of course, I think we should start with some introduction to the soul testing for the people that attends to the track, and then depending on the audience that we actually have, yeah, people can start. Maybe there is someone that wants to work on this slowest test, for example. Maybe there is no actual outcome at the end of the salt sprint, but there is some work that is already started that would be eventually finished at some point, maybe after the salt sprint, but that's not a problem, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that kind of sounds good, and that's our hope as well. We want to get the people started, and because we also would have Solco team members and the leaders of each of the track to guide through how to maybe just the logistics of submitting a PR, and also if they need help deciding how to fix something, then enable all of those discussions quickly. We can at least get them started in fixing that, and they can carry the work later on.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we still, just a quick idea that I had, you can even show them some workflow. I don't know, maybe they are not used to do testing much. So maybe we can record a session of, I don't know, we have right now to port these PRs. Maybe we can find a PR that we will port and implement some tests for it, and then record the session and show them how we usually work and why would be good if they would adopt this way, and yeah, what are the benefits, or I don't know, and then I don't know, just an idea. Let's see.
Yeah, that could also work. Maybe we can, if we have a video of that, that would be awesome. Not only for the Salt sprint, but for the whole Salt community. So if they want to start or start working on the testing, having some videos telling about the workflow we usually we use, then it will be awesome. But in any case, in case that we are not able to produce that video, that is something that I will do on the introduction part of the Salt sprint. So maybe a good idea will be to do it like creating or implementing some unit tests for some of or one of those PRs. With all the people there to follow the workflow, and then create the pull request and so on as an introduction, maybe, instead of just playing a video, right? But I mean,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's think about it. I don't know.
yeah, let's keep thinking how we could do it in the best way possible. Yeah. One thing, Javier, you mentioned that tomorrow is going to be somehow some kind of meeting to explain the format of the Soul Sprint. Because I have not received any appointment for this. I'm not sure if you already submitted or not.
Yeah, I'll work with Mo to send that across. So he's with in a client site, and we're trying to, and his schedule was packed, but then he wanted to be present and guide the discussions. So yeah, I'll make sure to send that across as soon as possible.
Okay, wonderful.
So yeah, I think that plan sounds really good. And even if we are not able to get that before SolConf, the idea of walking through and helping more people, just kind of like the flow of how to write test cases and submit the process. I think that would be amazing.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Okay. And the next item which I'd want to talk about is on the second day of SolConf, which would be in the local time, Tuesday morning. We have something called as Meet the Experts panel. And that panel will consist of SolCo team members, working group captains, and Tom. So the idea is that we are gathering questions beforehand, and the panel will take time to answer them. So Pablo, since you'll be in the SolConf, I mean, I'd want to make sure that you do attend the event, and Mihai, the other thing, the good thing is we are also enabling Zoom, so you can join in remotely as well to watch the proceedings.
Okay, nice.
Nice.
Okay. So yeah, the next item I want to talk about is, and since Pedro is here now, he has a talk planned for the SaltConf. So Pedro, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So the talk will also be kind of an introduction to how to test salt, what's our plan, and an example of the plan that we are trying to follow. And I'll explain. So we will be like introducing the notions of integration testing, unit testing, and the new functional testing that we are trying to introduce. And we will explain the reasons why we want to do that. And we will also go through the process of setting up the environment to actually port an integration test to a functional test. This last couple of days, I've been cleaning up the PyTest stuff that is supposed to go into master, which hasn't yet. There's a lot going on before that can go in, but we decided to, instead of show is something that we will stop doing, instead focus on something that we will start doing with PyTest. And so that's more or less like the overall idea of the talk that we are going to give. Mostly approach salt testing with PyTest and try to switch to a functional type of testing.
And that's cool, but I have one question. When is this talk happening? Is this after the working groups sessions or before?
I do not have the schedule in mind. Do you know, Javier?
Yeah, I can check and confirm it in the next few minutes.
It would
Why
be
I was
actually really
thinking,
okay. Please, Mihai, go ahead.
yeah, just quickly, what I was thinking maybe, I mean, this is a big topic. You could even then do it in two sessions, or I don't know, you could team up with Pablo and also cover the same, because the topic is basically the same. So you could do it in one session when the working group is happening, and one which maybe could be more hands-on, and the other when you have the slot for your talk, Pedro. I don't know.
I don't know. So Javier is
Yeah,
looking that up.
I don't want to make the schedule.
No. I don't know, because I've been trying to clean up this to a point where this could go in, because it's
Okay.
easier for people to check out code from Salt instead of an open PR. But there's stuff that needs to happen before that, and we decided not to introduce instability into Salt, so the work is still being done on the pull request and on a branch before it goes in.
Okay.
Yeah, just to mention that it will be actually, it will be very nice if we have this talk from Pedro before the Soul Spring. So people that attends the Pedro's talk and they are interested into testing salt, they can then attend the activities on the Salt Spring. Because if we have the Salt Spring first, and then we have this specific testing talk at the day after on Tuesday, I think it would be nice to have it in the other way. So first Pedro's talk, and then having the Salt Spring, where attendees to Pedro's talk could also dive into the testing on a more hands-on session.
Yeah. Let's see when that's going to happen. Hopefully, it's like you're mentioning. This talk will be given by me and Wayne. We are both like giving the talk. But yeah, at least the part where we set up the minimal environment to start um, hacking on tests would be useful to happen before the sprint.
And in any case, Pedro, what I would do is to probably reach you during Monday before the Salt Spring. So maybe even if your talk is not happening on Monday, we can think a bit on this introduction part. So during the Salt Spring sprint, I can also more or less follow the same approach that you are going to explain your talk, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to talk before Monday, we can schedule something for this week. If that helps you. If not, we can talk on Monday before. I'm arriving on Sunday afternoon, Sunday like 7 p.m. So if you're already there, we can even meet on Sunday if you prefer.
Yeah, I will be there on also on Sunday. I will arrive Salt Lake, I think, on Saturday evening, but I will be there already on Sunday. I think we need to set up something for the booth and some other stuff there. So yeah, I will just try to reach you, ping you when I got there.
Yeah, I can ping you when I land, and
Mm-hmm.
then you see if you have your stuff done, and we can
Mm-hmm.
probably meet just to have some more time to talk about this approach.
Okay, perfect, awesome, thank you.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome anytime.
I'm still trying to confirm if what I see in my list is the final slot for the breakout session. So yeah, if I don't hear back within the time of this discussion, I'll reach out to both Mihai and Pablo as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I can give a small update on where PyTest is. There's still an open pull request with PyTest for the master branch. It hasn't gone in because we identified a problem with Windows. So because of the nature of how PyTest runs, which is like top to bottom, and it stores the results, which are basically strings, but we have so many tests that it becomes a lot of data. What happened in Windows is that the tests would never finish. So if we split the tests like in two separate chunks, like for example, integration and unit tests, the tests would pass. But if we ran them top to bottom, the tests would never finish. A way to like fake the outcome would be to get a bigger Windows machine, but I don't think that's the approach that we should take. And that actually led us to taking the bullet, stepping back a little bit, and trying to refactor how logging is done for the multiple processes. So that's also an open pull request which refactors logging, in particular multiprocessing logging. And it's like a simpler approach that still enables separate processes to log to the parent process so that we can get all logging just like we had before. And the really cool thing about this is that it's supposed to work on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux independently. So once that's like cleaned up and working, I hit a glitch on Mac OS, which I was investigating this week, and I was trying to wrap that up to see if that would go in, but let's not rush it. So that's almost done, and then I can focus again on the PyTest stuff, which is like on the back burner, just because of that. And then we can finally have like PyTest in and start enjoying a simpler and more easier and way more fun test library.
That sounds good.
from the list that you had, did you take a look at it? Did you started like working on some of those that stuff? Did you like prioritize or something like that?
Sorry, what list do you mean?
The list of the slow tests and that
Uh,
was
mhm.
that.
I have not created, well, we have not created any cards for
Mm-hmm.
those slow tests. There's still a to-do card that says we should create cards from it, but we've started with migrating the PRs because there's still some
Oh,
work to do
yes.
there. So we've started with those, and yeah, because this is mostly on us, we started with our own PRs. There was no point in trying to get any help for now, since I mean, I think we are the best to migrate our own PRs. And
No, it makes
so we,
sense. Yes.
yeah, so we started with that. We're still in progress. I've created cards for those things, but the others are still in to do for now.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, but the good news is that we've got green light from management. So speaking for the CISO people here, we've got green light from management to tackle this in the next cycles that are coming. But I've actually got a question on how we should proceed here, because if we track that internally, that really doesn't make sense, because other people then could potentially work on the same slow tests, which wouldn't make sense. So where do we want to track that? Should we track that on the community board? Would that be the best place, or should we do something else?
Yeah, I think that's clear. It should happen in the community. We've migrated everything there, and we created cards there, and or at least I and Pablo and the progress from Alberto, I've tracked there in cards.
Okay, then should we just create cards for tests that are then being tackled, so that that we can see that? Because if we
You
create
mean
tests
to synchronize with the SourceTech core team if they are doing some work there, so that we don't do the same thing?
yeah, basically with everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. So that list we probably should also create cards for that, so that
Ooh, that
if
list is long.
any,
So
we could
I
probably
don't think we
script
should.
it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think we should. I don't think we should create cards for everything, because then the board would just be completely
Yeah.
full with cards for contests.
So here's another idea. We find a way to have that list public, probably in an issue. So it will be a long issue. And we explain the procedure that we could take. Like, for example, you see a test that you would like to tackle, you create a card for that and say that you're working on it, and like update the issue, like someone is already working on this one, and probably this way we will have a more visible way of knowing if someone is working on something or not before we can pick it up and take it into the work, so that we don't step on each other.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that for like the next month we'll be wrapping up your own pull requests against master, and then probably start deciding on what to tackle next, right?
I think we can have some overlap here.
Yeah, sorry, I was saying the same thing, but I was muted. Yeah, so I was thinking that we could do some things in parallel if we have that list of slow tests where people could reserve and create cards from the list. Then maybe someone wants to, I don't know, postpone migrating some PR and work on some slow test first. It should be possible. So,
I'm not trying to like decide your priorities, so that was more like a question. Sorry.
no, it's fine. But I think it can be parallelized in some way tonight.
Because, like you mentioned, it makes sense that since you did the code, it's easier for you to port your own pull requests, and we actually thank you for that because it makes our life also a little bit simpler. So yeah, like I was saying, I'm not trying to switch your priorities. I was just like trying to poke a little to know what's going to happen on the next month. I guess we will have a lot of time to talk during SaltConf, at least me and Pablo. So we can chat about that too. So it was just like
Hey, Pedro, this is Sage.
hello, Sage.
You guys probably don't know who I am. I'm Sage. Hi, everybody. I've been with the company for a
Hey.
while. Nice to meet you guys. I think some of you I may have met last year at SaltConf or at other various things. I do think that there will probably be some overlap in the cards and things that need to be done versus things that are in progress. And that's something we probably do need to think about a little more carefully and probably not make assumptions or write assumptions down that say, if there's not a card that describes exactly what it is that you want to work on, please write one and assign it to yourself. You know, and just writing it down, we do need one single source of truth for a list of slow tests. I think that could be in that document, maybe in a README file. But we can kind of dig into some of that as we go. But I do think that there may be a problem with overlap a little bit. So I want to just be cognizant of that. And I can help with that, by the way.
Okay. We welcome any help. Yeah, so whatever you think it's better, if it works, we are fine with it.
Yeah.
To avoid that, for example, let's say the core team is already working on something, but then we creating some card in the community, and then someone starts working on that, and then at some point he realizes that, oh, this is done already. It's like a bit demotivating. Yeah.
Exactly.
So if we avoid that, yes, that would, whatever works, we are fine with it.
Yeah, totally. I think that a really quick, this is how we function, this is how cards are getting created, sort of like a README file or maybe even a wiki in that community board would probably do it. So I'm happy to help there with you guys and getting that communication set up.
Yeah, so whenever you have one idea or you set up something, just contact us and
Absolutely.
so that we are aware and we are fine.
Yeah, sounds good.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Sage. So I wanted to quickly confirm that the Pedro's talk, the test-driven solved best practices for test cases and quality contributions, it's going to be from 3:30 to 4:15, which means it is going to be just right before the Sol sprint.
Okay, that's perfect.
On Monday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, on Monday.
Okay.
Is there anything that, sorry.
Yeah, just to mention that I just got the invitation for tomorrow's meeting for the preparation. Okay.
Yeah, I want to quickly check if the time works. because it's going to be a little late, I think, for you guys, but we couldn't find any slot earlier.
Yeah. Well, it worked for me. I mean, I cannot think. I can make it work. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Do we have anything else in the agenda that we wanted to bring up today?
From my point of view, I think we've covered the topics that we wanted, or maybe Pablo, did we miss anything?
No, I'm reading my notes, and I think everything is already tackled. So we are
Mm-hmm.
good.
Okay, sounds
Nice.
good. Yeah, good work. Pedro, do you have anything to add, or Frauda, do you have anything to add?
Nope, not on my end.
Okay, sounds good. And I think the action item, one of the action items for us is, I mean, we'll continue the discussion in tomorrow's leaders meeting. And I think Sage will also help. Yeah, Sage is our expert in house, so it'll be certainly valuable to get her help.
Thanks, Kavya. That's kind of you to say that.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you all for the good work, and yeah, I'll meet you soon. So Mihai, I think we sent an invite for you as well in tomorrow's meeting. I'm just quickly making sure.
Yes, I just saw that, and I will try to join.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Thank
you all.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a nice day.
You guys too.